preparing to live stream. Okay, we are on. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to the third career panel in the NUIAA Alumni Association's career panel series, all of which are live streamed and recorded for later viewing on our YouTube channel, NUIAA Alum. We are so honored today to have, inshallah, 3 of our wonderful alum. We'll be delving into engineering, what the career is all about, what inspired them about this field, and anything else. Please utilize the live streaming chat. Feel free to ask questions throughout the whole process. We want to keep it as casual and as interactive as we possibly can. Yeah, so I guess to get started, my name is Yusri. I graduated from NUI in 2019, and I'm currently an undergraduate level, and I'm a junior. And today I'll be moderating this wonderful event. And without further ado, we'll move on to our panelists in any order that you guys choose. Just introduce yourself, your name, when you graduated from NUIAA, and what inspired you about engineering.
All right, I can go first. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Atif Salahuddin. I graduated from NUI in 2011. And I went on to get an engineering undergraduate degree in aerospace engineering from the University of Maryland. And then I went on to get a master's as well. And the thing that really drew me to engineering was just kind of as a kid and kind of going up to high school, got really interested in math and physics. And I really wanted to make sure I did something along those lines. At the same time, I was really into kind of space. I kind of really grew out of that astronaut phase as a kid. So I think I found aerospace engineering as kind of the perfect mix between kind of that realistic job, but still having something to do really cool with space. So that's kind of how I got into my degree and went in that direction.
All right, I guess I'm going to go next, inshallah. My name is Abdurrahman Haggag. I graduated at NUI in 2014. I went to Rutgers University, New Brunswick. Went through the engineering program, and I did civil and environmental engineering. I started off in dentistry, then I realized I didn't want to do that because it was kind of gross. Then, even though I love my mom, she's a dentist. I started at biomedical. It didn't sit. I don't know. It didn't have really an knack for biomedical engineering. Then I tried out civil, and I kind of started understanding it more and what the science behind transportation, the science behind mass transit, things like that. And I kind of had a knack for it, and I went into that kind of engineering. Alhamdulillah, I'm definitely more science. I'm more physics and math based than I am science and biology and things like that. So I definitely lean towards that. And alhamdulillah, one thing led to another, and been working in the field for 3 years now.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I basically have a similar background as Abdurrahman and Atif. I enjoyed math and science and physics a lot in my high school career, and I basically, because I like that, I decided to pursue that in college. I decided to do electrical and computer engineering because I used to participate in Science Olympiad, and we used to have all those circuit events. So I really enjoyed those. So I decided to pursue that there, and then in my second year of undergrad, I decided I actually liked computer science and programming more so than like the actual engineering side. So that's where I kind of pivoted my major. So I ended up doing both electrical and computer science. So that was really rewarding, and that's kind of my background.
Yeah, that's awesome. So as you guys obviously know, and the audience can definitely tell that there are like a plethora of subfields in engineering, and there's so many opportunities to be creative and combine subdisciplines. So I guess to start off, what got you interested in your specific engineering subfield? Was there a specific experience? Was it a combination of experiences? Was there a inspirational event? a family member possibly? What's all that? What's that all about?
So yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of jumped the gun a little bit in the last question, but yeah, I was just really into space as a kid, and being able to kind of work on aircraft and spacecraft was something that I really thought was really interesting. So that's kind of what I wanted to do just going into college. I know like a lot of people kind of, it takes some time to figure out what you want to do, but somehow it kind of stayed the same for me for the most part through college. And kind of the more I got into it, the more I learned about it. It was kind of really interesting to me, and I really enjoyed it. So I got to work a little bit on helicopter stuff, a little bit on spacecraft stuff, a little on aircraft stuff, wind turbines. So I got a nice broad view of the aerospace field, and it was really exciting for me. So that's kind of where I got into that.
I guess for me, it was more of an experience thing. I started off, I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do, from jumping from dentistry to biomedical engineering to civil engineering. And alhamdulillah, I worked part-time, or rather I had my internship in the summer in my sophomore year in the summer, alhamdulillah. And that was I did civil engineering, and it was a bunch of disciplines within civil engineering itself that you can try and you can try out. For my first internship, I did structures with some transportation. So if you're in structures, like that's one way you can start and get a taste for it. I think for civil engineering field, it's very more what you do at your job and internship that really influences you versus what you learn in school. For instance, when I had my structures internship, I knew exactly what I didn't want to do, so that was like a helpful thing. But and I got exposed to like the traffic and transportation world, and that grew on me more, and that's how I got more into it from just consecutive internships in the summer. And alhamdulillah, I finally settled down on that and went for it.
So, like I said earlier, basically I started in electrical and computer engineering, but I realized after taking some of my classes were programming based and coding based. So once I started taking those classes, I kind of preferred those over the actual like physical hardware classes. I did enjoy those as well, because obviously when you see the hardware work, it's very interesting. But I just found like the programming side a lot more interesting, just personally, and you get a lot more flexibility, and you can kind of build anything really. So that was really cool. And then I just started taking more like AI classes, machine learning classes in my senior year as well. So that was the focus area that I really enjoyed. So I decided to do that as well. Obviously, when I started my job right now, I didn't get a job in AI. I mean, as an undergrad, you don't really do that. So I just got a basic software engineering job. But you can easily transition into it as you work more and get more experience.
Yeah, awesome. I know all three of you guys are, mashallah, well into your careers. Maybe like, starting to get the groove of things and all of that, but definitely practicing in the field. We're gonna like I guess like, not fast forward. We're gonna move backwards, I guess, to your high school undergraduate transition. Flashback to your NUIAA high school days, and what was that all about? What basically got you interested in engineering in high school? Was there anything specific or any type of program that you guys were involved in, or clubs that you guys were involved in high school that basically solidified your interest when looking into colleges specifically?
So for me, it was physics class, but was a huge part. And the math courses at college, we had some really great teachers, Dr. Clausen, Ms. Hassan, and all our teachers are like really great kind of influences to kind of get us going and kind of help us discover what we are passionate about. And then on top of that, we had the Math Olympiad, Science Olympiad, Safra, I think, mentioned that as well. So those kind of clubs and courses, basically anything to get you kind of in the field, and especially now, I think there's probably more opportunities in terms of getting things more in a hands-on experience. I think that's something actually that I don't know, during my time at NUI, I don't think we had as much of, but I think it's now starting to pick up, and I think that's definitely something that if you are interested in this sort of field, you should definitely take advantage of getting as much hands-on experience as you can, because like Abdurrahman said, like what you learn in class and school really doesn't really translate to whether you actually like it a lot until you actually start working with the stuff.
So yeah, I mean, I took the words right in my mouth. Our teachers were, mashallah, were, alhamdulillah, they're a blessing, honestly, a blessing in disguise. And from Dr. Qasim to Miss Semia to Miss Faiza, like all these people, like we still remember them. We still remember their classes and the influence they had on us, and like the Dr. Qasim telling you to hold one side of the rope and then yanking it and you falling over and saying this is tension. And then we're like, oh, I mean, I remember it, but that's what it is. And it's those kind of things that, alhamdulillah, like we had that strong backing from NUI from high school. That's like that unlocks our passion for things that we do or do not know of, and things you have a knack for, some things you don't, some things you have passion for, some things you don't, and that is something that's you could say starts at high school, and honestly, it's to this day you still, and I'm sure like Atif and Safa can say the same thing. They're still learning new things in the job that they didn't know about, or they're passionate about, or they just discover that they like a lot, and it's something it's ongoing, and you're always melding and sculpting and understanding. And alhamdulillah, to this day, it's always learning in progress. So alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I have to agree with everything Atif and Abdurrahman said. There are like things from high school that you learn that you just like won't forget. Like I remember the right hand rule from Dr. Qasim's class, and none of my friends could remember it, but I remembered it. So that should say something. And then also Miss Samia Hashim's class like prepared me for Gen Chem, like so like I breezed through that class because like she was really good. Alhamdulillah, and even Miss Faiza's geometry and calc classes were just basically really amazing. So like I would just say like study hard, do well in your classes, pay attention because it does help, in college when you're taking those. Also, just like get involved and just enjoy, like try to enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, like just be passionate about it, and it's like nothing's wrong with like actually enjoying your classes. And you can get into science olympiad, math olympiad. Those are like amazing ways to just improve your skills. Also, like if you are really interested in like coding or programming, like there's so many open source resources like on the internet that you can just try out, even if you're not getting that from school. That's also very interesting. And also, like Abdurrahman said, your career is very fluid. It's changing day to day. You're not always like, I wouldn't have seen myself in this position right now, like in high school. I wouldn't have even imagined that. And that's just the way things are. Like you're always learning every single day. So yeah.
Awesome. Yes, so yeah, and obviously I can attest to this too. The NUI high school experience is unlike no other. It's definitely the community, but it's also the small classroom environment that really gets you thinking about what are your passions and what are you interested in. And obviously in a small environment, you're more prone to do that and to want to stand out with your own, values and interests and things of that sort. And then college. College comes around and you're like, what am I actually going to do? What classes do I have to take? What building do I have to run to? What am I going to do with my life? All those important questions in life. For you guys, how was the transition to college? Obviously, we took some very core science, math courses that have prepared us specifically in the STEM field from NUI. But coming to college, what was it all about? How did you guys maneuver classes, getting your work done, but also staying on top of it and anything of that sort?
So yeah, the transition actually, I actually felt like NUI really helped prepare us for the college experience or classes for engineering at least very well. Like Safa mentioned, like Mr. Hashim's chemistry class, but it just felt like a repeat of in college. Like literally, it was actually touching the same things, and like I alhamdulillah, like was able to do a lot very well with the intro classes just because NUI kind of had that good foundation to start. But at the same time, it is a big change, it's a big transition. Kind of, so you have a lot more independence. You have to kind of be a lot more disciplined, be able to kind of self-monitor yourself, um, be able to balance kind of the social life with school, with getting enough sleep. So it's a lot to balance, and especially in engineering, you're going to find compared to like your friends in other majors, you're probably going to have a lot more work. I'm gonna like with speaking for myself, like I found like people in other majors, there are definitely a lot of tough majors. I'm not trying to say that engineering is necessarily tougher, but it tends to be on the tougher side, but usually. So you need to prepare yourself for that and make sure that you're willing to put in the work because it's definitely not a breeze all the time.
I'll say what Atif is trying to say. Engineering is one of the tougher degrees out of all of them. Okay, let's just be honest. It is. No, but it's a transition. It is difficult, alhamdulillah, but it's. I mean, hey, it's not fun if it's not difficult. It's you learn a lot more. Alhamdulillah, like our background, like Atif said, like from our teachers, definitely like prepared us a lot and gave us a better idea of like what to expect, so we wouldn't just everything was thrown in our face. And transition for college, I also just differs from person to person whether you're ready for it or not. If you're going in there like I'm gonna have a great time, yeah, it's gonna be rough. But if you're going in there saying like, all right, I got work to do, but I can make this happen, like inshallah, like and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gonna like make it happen for you one way or another, and like it's all gonna work out in the end, inshallah. And that's no matter what you do, whatever program you decide to go in, it's always going to be a challenge one way or another because it's a whole different environment, a whole different field. Mr. Hashim's not going to be there to kick you out of class when you don't do homework. Like it's it's a lot of different things that you got to account for. But alhamdulillah, I think the beautiful thing is when talking to like people who come to NUI and who graduate from NUI, you always have someone you can talk to for help or hey, I can't figure this out. Like, what do we do? And in my freshman year, I sent an email to Dr. Qasim. I said, I don't get this potential energy thing. It's not working. It's not how you taught it. He took me to his office one day, the male teacher's room, and we sat there for an hour and a half, like going over potential and kinetic energy. And like those connections exist to help you out. And alhamdulillah, like, it makes that transition that much easier. So it's going to be a challenge, but alhamdulillah, like, it's definitely not something that anyone is not capable of.
Yeah, so like both Atif and Abdurrahman said, college is definitely it's more difficult than high school. You have a lot of responsibility. You have to manage different, like a crazy schedule and, balance all the classes, the assignments, the homework. But it's definitely doable if you just have the right mindset. Like both of them said, you can't, go into it thinking it's going to be a piece of cake. You have to be willing to put in the effort for it, and inshallah, once you have that mindset, everything should be okay, inshallah. And also, don't be afraid to fail because everyone does fail in college. You're always going to there's going to be that 1-2 classes that are just going to like almost kill your GPA, but that's okay. You can get through it. It's not the end of the world. So it's fine.
Yeah, for all those other college students out there, just deep breath in, deep breath out. Like, inshallah, we'll get through this. And it's definitely a big transition. Any high school to college transition is obviously hard to maneuver and figuring out what to do and how to do things right. And there's a whole lot to explore with that. But I guess this is not necessarily related directly to engineering, but whether you were a commuter student or an on-campus resident during college, how was the college experience for you, not necessarily being in a NUIAA environment? What were some challenges that you guys faced when you were in obviously a different classroom environment, whether that be the physical aspect of having however many students sitting next to you in a classroom, or not necessarily having as big of a support system? So anything along those lines, how's it for you guys?
Yeah, so the college experience was definitely very different. So I was still going on campus, well, almost off campus. Was off campus with a few other brothers. I'd say like the nice thing about college is while it does seem like a very big, daunting experience, and there's like so many people, it's what you need to do to kind of make it feel a lot smaller is you need to find your group, your niche. Like once you get the kind of group of close friends in college, it feels a lot more manageable. It's less overwhelming. You yeah, you just kind of have some people that you can kind of rely on, and that you have like a kind of a support group to kind of, and to also have fun with, as well as to help with studies and everything in between. And also like going into these large classes, like your intro classes, a lot of times you're going to have, could even have 300, 400 students, even more. I know Rutgers, I think, even has more than that. But the main thing to take advantage of there is office hours. So every professor, reach out to your professor, reach out to teaching assistants, and that will help you a lot with dealing with kind of those large classes. You want to take advantage of the resources they give you, because a lot of students don't, and they struggle because of that. But if you are able to kind of take advantage of what is open to you, it makes it a lot more manageable and a lot easier.
Yes, I definitely having that group of people outside is makes a big difference. I remember in the beginning, my first year was definitely my hardest year. Just that transition, just figuring out how to go about this chemistry class. Like stuff I would know, like I had like hundreds of people in it. Like you couldn't see the end of the room because it was just massive. From and you're gonna have classes like that where it's it's weed out classes just to see who's gonna make it through, who's gonna be able to get through it. And alhamdulillah, like if you are honest about it, and not someone who, like, for instance, like I at first when I went for my first like initial couple months at college, man, I go to the court every single day. Like, I can miss this class, I can play some basketball. I just keep going to different basketball courts all over New Brunswick at Rutgers. I was like, okay, this is not manageable. I should, sit down and study and get some classes done. And you feel it out. You feel like you feel out in the beginning. You understand what your limitations are, what you can and can't do. Learning how to study versus just hard, like obviously the typical cliche of work smart, not hard, or work smarter. So that's there's a very big truth to that, because I think my first exam I was like, oh, I'm going to be a diligent student. I'm going to open my textbook and all the answers are here. So my first exam I was like, okay, this has absolutely nothing to do with the textbook. It's all about the teacher. Like it's always going to be a different challenge, a different hurdle that they have to get through. But it's about finding your group, finding out what works for you and what doesn't. And honestly, the college experience it's alhamdulillah, like it really is a blessing, because it's a double-edged sword. You're having that independence where no one's following up with you and making sure you do your work, but you also have that freedom to set your own schedule and figure out what you want to do. And alhamdulillah, like that's also part of, I guess, maturing into that independence of going to college and being a college student. And it's funny, I said office hours, and I bring that up because I think my first class I was doing really badly in it, and I used to show up to office hours all the time, just like talking to the professor, like we were buddies. And he gave me an A in the class, even though I got like B minuses barely. And he was like, listen, I'm gonna give you an A. I was like, why? He's like, you came to office hours, you showed an effort, you earned it. I was like, all right, cool, like that's awesome. And you also realize like, oh, professors can do literally whatever they want with no accountability. Like they can just make it from a B to an A real quick and have no worries. Like it's kind of, because it's small things like that all add up. But at the end of the day, inshallah, like you'll get used to it, inshallah. You'll get accustomed to it. And alhamdulillah, it's nothing difficult and that no one can not get through, inshallah. So that's I guess a little message that I could give.
Yeah, I would say I had a very similar experience. I actually, in my first year, I didn't know anyone. I was also I was a commuter to Rutgers. I used to take classes like those Gen Chem classes and those intro classes as well. I didn't know anyone, but those classes were all right. But you could sometimes see like familiar faces, and then I kind of just talked to different people, and I saw people who were taking the same exact classes the next year and sophomore year, and you kind of just make friends that way. And as you specialize more, like once you figure out what your major, you're gonna end up seeing the same exact people. So once you see those same people, you kind of form a group naturally, just because you know each other. And then when you like do study groups with them, it's really helpful because you can bounce back answers and do practice problems. Those really help for like exam prep as well. And then also, I just like Abdurrahman said, like going to office hours and talking to TAs, like not even just the professor, sometimes the TAs are the ones who do the grading. So like I remember one time for one of my programming assignments, there was an auto grader, so you had to like submit and then it would basically just like fail you if you just got like the entire thing wrong. Like even one like semicolon or whatever is missing, it's like wrong, the whole thing's off. So you would go, like if you went to the office hours and you talked to the TA and like, I technically got this right. So then you like explain to them and they'll basically give you back points because they're reasonable and they're not a computer. So you should like, you know, take those opportunities to just talk to your professors and TAs. It's really helpful.
Yeah, I'm so glad you guys brought those points up. Very, very good points. And no college student can emphasize this enough to high school students that like, if you're ever in a, like just in college courses in general, whether you're in a specific course that has a large student population or whether it's, you know, even if it's smaller than that, how important it is to take advantage of those smaller class-like settings, whether that be office hours with the professor or workshop sessions with like LAs or TAs, or, you know, if there are general lectures that are brought down smaller, like recitations, for example, that in some colleges happen every week, anything of that sort. Taking advantage of those like resources is so important, not only because, as you guys have mentioned, like obviously there is some bias that, you know, plays into how students can, you know, perform and whatnot, but at the same time, like it's pretty proportional. Like the work that you put in and the work that you demonstrate and your hard work definitely pays off. And these courses are, you know, there for a reason. Students have gone through these classes before, so they're definitely doable, but it's about finding those like mentors and resources in each of the classes, because like you guys have mentioned, like studying for one class doesn't necessarily mean that's the universal like studying method for all your classes. And it doesn't mean that that's going to be the universal method of studying for your classes all throughout 4 years of college or anything of that sort. So yeah, a lot to dissect within those resources, but great pointers for that. And I guess this is obviously a little bit more of a logistical question, and specifically to students that are interested in pursuing engineering. How is it in terms of the classes you have to take specifically at the undergraduate level? What is the pre-engineering track all about? And generally, what are the courses that you're entailed to take in that discipline?
Yeah, so pre-engineering, like pretty much all engineering students, at least at University of Maryland, I'm pretty sure it's probably similar in most universities. When you're going as an engineering student, you know, physics 1, 2, 3, usually everyone has to take some sort of chemistry course, at least a basic one. And then your math courses all the way up to Calc 3, Calc 4, differential equations. So there's a whole base that kind of those first 2 years, I think, is basically where you're taking all those kind of fundamental courses that across the board all engineers are taking. And then meanwhile, in your how University of Maryland did it is that it had pretty much at the first 2 years, you'd have like 1 or 2 courses in aerospace or whatever your specific major is. And then your last 2 years are pretty much all aerospace courses. And then we also have, you have your gen ed requirements as well. So you kind of get a nice balance of, your social sciences and English and, resume writing, things like that. So it's a good mix. Basically, those first 2 years are kind of where it's like the tough gen ed courses that, like Abdurrahman mentioned, they're weed out courses. And then you're kind of going through them. And then as you get into those more specialized courses, it's less about kind of how to do well in the course. Like it's less about just the grade. It's more about the learning. And you kind of look at more projects and get more involved. You also normally have some sort of engineering kind of intro course to some sort of building project. Like for me, we had to build a little hovercraft that to navigate through like a maze. So I think other courses will have something similar. So there's a whole variety there.
Yeah, I think on the head. Courses Calc 1 through 4, multivariable calculus, differential equations, physics 1, physics 2, electromagnetism, very physics and math based, and as expected, because that's what I guess engineers are geared towards in what we do, and that sets the foundation. And then I guess for Rutgers, and Selva can speak to this as well. I started the coursework in the second semester of my sophomore year. So my fourth semester is when I started doing more civil / environmental engineering coursework, where that started factoring into doing things that you kind of want to do versus just the general weed out courses. So that's where it starts, and it's that and that's where you start. I guess that's where the passion, you can call it, starts kicking in. Like, oh, like sweet, like I'm not just looking at more calc and more equations and more DPQ and multivariable and more, it's something that it's different, something more real world. I remember I had to design the side of a hotel structure in my second year, and understanding like the steel components of it and things like that. And that's like real world like actual work and actual studying that you're doing. And then that's the kind of track that you take that most engineers do. And I know for Rutgers, they have, it's not to scare anyone, they have math and they have like an engineering math, which is more geared towards a type of engineering and type of coursework in math that's more intense than the standard math, let's say, that a bio major would take, or someone that's not in the engineering department would take. So they have more engineering based math and physics for the engineers. And I think that's the biggest difference probably when it comes to the standard coursework for I guess the engineer students and the non-engineering students.
Yeah, Abdurrahman basically covered it because we both went to Rutgers. But I think, yeah, all the Calc 1 to 4, and then there's Gen Chem, and there's the Gen Chem is actually Gen Chem for engineers. And I heard that was actually easier than the original chemistry because engineers don't have like that much rigorous chemistry. And then you have XPOS, which is basically writing. And then I'm trying to think. I actually took my my core engineering classes first semester of sophomore year, and that's when I started like circuits and all of that at the same time as some of my calc classes as well. So that's when I got interested, and that you would build like circuits and you would see the lights come on when you connected everything right. So that was really cool. Even some of the gen physics classes are obviously really cool. They have all those demonstrations in Rutgers, they have like the guy who comes in and like he pulls the sheet off the table and everything, and he does the fire extinguisher, and he like goes back. I've seen those videos, I'm pretty sure. So like those classes are fun too, but you get really into the major once your sophomore year starts, pretty much.
Yeah, what Saf was saying, that was I remember in our physics class we had the typical physics professor who took a bowling ball, basically a pendulum, bowling ball at the bottom of a steel wire, and he climbed up a ladder, walked to the edge of the class, and he put it straight to his face, and he's like, I'm gonna let it go. And he's like, I think he told us, it's like our first year, he's like, if the law of physics still stayed true, I will not get hit in the face. And we're all sitting here like, this man's gonna die. That was definitely there is definitely a fun part of the standard, the base classes that give you an overall view of like what you're about to do and what you're delving into. And building off of the XPOS that we took in college, for some reason, I guess going in, I guess for my field specifically, a lot of companies, a lot of people who like to hire, love engineers that can also write. Like there's writing is very, very underrated in the engineering world. People think like, I'm here to just do equations, multivariable calculus. I'm here to just get different values and that's it. But the skill of being able to technically write is very, very undervalued, and it's super helpful in your career, especially because that will take you like above and beyond. And that's something that I wish I was better at, and I wish I learned more of, and I wish I took advantage of, and in college, because in my head in college, I'm like, I'm gonna do my best to take all the courses that require no essays. And I realized as much as like much of a dodge of that was, I realized like I definitely missed out on taking more of those writing classes, as brutal as they were, because it really is the cherry on top for being an engineer. Like if you're an engineer and you can write, like you're valuable. You're very valuable.
Okay, future engineers, you guys heard it. Get into those Xbox classes and get your writing practice. But yeah, really great points. And that's mainly the gist, I guess, with a lot of other disciplines of like obviously starting off in college with your general ed courses and with very large quote unquote weed out courses, and then slowly narrowing in on your passions and like specific courses to your major or subdiscipline or whatnot. But as you guys know, college is so much more than just the classes that you guys sit in and the labs and anything that's involved with those classes. There's obviously an extracurricular life and a life that involves clubs and other activities outside of college, whether it's on campus or off campus. How did you guys maneuver those activities, and what got you interested in what you ended up pursuing outside of the classroom?
So yeah, I think the big one, as kind of coming from NUI as Muslim students, the Muslim Student Association is the major one, where I feel like you are able to kind of really find a community in college and kind of recapture a little bit of that NUI kind of community. You're able to find people who have similar values to you, who aren't necessarily trying to party hard or like, doing stuff that we're not doing. And you're still able to have a good time and, have trips and have fun. And there's ways to get involved in terms of leadership roles in the MSA. So that's definitely one role or one way to go that definitely is highly recommended. Then there's also cultural associations. You'll find if you have any sort of passion, you'll probably find something there. College is great in that respect. There's so many clubs, so many organizations. I remember I walked on the campus, I saw there's a Quidditch club at the university. I saw this guy ran up to me and said, "Did you see someone in a yellow shirt?" And it's like, that ran away. Apparently the snitch was a human. So anything you like, anything you're interested in, you can find those things. They have what they call the first look fair at University of Maryland, where basically all the clubs come out and you can see everything that's there. So it's really about you and about what you're interested in. And if you can't find what you're interested in, you can actually make your own club. The universities are great with giving you resources to do that if you show interest and passion, and you can create your own group if you can't find what you're looking for. So it's really about just what are you interested in and what do you want to do?
Yeah, it's the options out there are limitless, but on the kind of clubs that are out there. I remember I think at Rutgers, there was an Arab Debka dancing club that happened every Friday afternoon or something. Like there's a lot, like anything and everything is there, and all kinds of different types of people into different types of things. And whether you're into that or not, whether you like to do different things, like there's something out there for everyone if you want to get involved in extracurriculars. And yeah, I think me personally, I think being familiar with the MSA in general is a healthy goal as well, because just knowing that there's other Muslim students on campus is also a comfort, because our values and what we, like Atif said, our values and what we do as Muslims in our tradition is maybe not line up with every single person on campus and what they do or don't do. So I definitely, even maybe attending if you're I remember in Rutgers, there's one building that, if you go, there's always someone praying Asr, praying Dhuhr, praying Maghrib. Like it's like, I got to pray and get to class. So you always make that Jama'ah prayer, get that extra hasanat. And it's nice, just like being able to you just walk into a room, someone's praying, you just join them. Like it's a nice feeling. It's a nice like kind of connection with another Muslim that's on campus. And honestly, it's always you'll find your balance. Everyone finds their balance in one way or another. Alhamdulillah, and that's the beauty of having that independence, that you're learning that some days you can go to your events, or you go to the courts, or I did rec soccer and did rec basketball, and it was awesome. It was great. Like you always find your balance of what you want to do and what you don't want to do, and alhamdulillah, that's the beauty of that. that environment is the open selection.
Yeah, I would add to that, like if you have the time in your schedule and with your commute, if you are a commuter, sometimes that can be difficult, but you can definitely find your spot. Like I used to go to the Commuters Students Association because they used to have a lounge, and I basically made friends there because it would be my like spot between classes because I would not have a dorm to go to. So I would go there and I made a lot of friends. And then also I know Rutgers has like different really cool clubs like AIAA. It's like an aviation club and they like make drones and airplanes. And then they have a Formula One racing club as well. They make like actual cars that actually race. So those are like some really cool clubs. And obviously they have recreational sports clubs. The MSA is a huge one. Just like seeing everyone from the MSA is nice, like going on to Juma and everything like that is always great. So that's how I was involved in campus, just, MSA and the Students Association. I would say as an engineer, sometimes it's a little difficult with your schedule to like be involved in too many clubs. But I would say like pick one or two and you'll find your balance. Yeah.
I mean, I was part of the AMSA, American Medical Student Association, because there was free pizzas on Wednesdays. I mean, you'll figure it out. Like you'll different things. It was awesome. Like oh, what are you doing? Yeah, I just trying to find my way. I'm just trying to learn here, and we got free pizzas, and we're chilling. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's just to add on, I think something reminded me because the AIAA was like one of our professional societies. So actually, yeah, also not to like kind of get more into your studies, but they're professional groups or professionals that basically will help you network and help you with your classes and things, or you kind of get access to people in your major who are older and can kind of help you with coursework that you're dealing with now. So there are those clubs as well where a little more academic oriented. But like, if you need help with something, that's another avenue to go to. So definitely don't overlook those.
Yeah, and definitely, I think there's a concrete canoe contest that they had, and I think most colleges have as well. One of my professors that taught me was the head of the group that was learning how to make a concrete canoe and stuff like that. And I know one of my friends ended up like he ended up going to a master's degree for free because he got close to that professor over the years, and he's like, listen, you come to Rutgers, come to a master's program, and just TA and Rutgers will pay for it. And just it's kind of like you don't see the little connections what they could amount to because we're very short-sighted in terms of like what we do, but we don't realize that things extracurriculars can also go a long way in terms of the opportunity that they come up can come out of them, and the potential that's there.
Yeah, and after Abdurrahman mentioned the free pizza, I used to go to the IEEE club, which is the Electrical Engineering Club, just because they used to have free pizza. I think it was Tuesdays or Wednesdays as well. So I used to go there. But it actually turned out to be really helpful because they actually used to do tutoring. So sometimes you would just get like help on homework, just going there, and it would be really nice because you would meet other engineers and they would help you out. So sometimes the connections are really unexpected, but they're good.
The networking we can make through over pizza. I mean, what better way to put it? So for any students out there that are hesitant about any clubs organizations, just look up what they're having for the menu in the next meeting. And you never know, maybe it'll take you to a master's program or get you super interested in one of your passions. So really good tidbits there. I guess more in the light of engineering, were you guys involved in or interested in any internship or co-op programs throughout your high school career? Throughout your college career, I'm sorry. And did that at all change or maneuver what subdiscipline you guys were interested in? How did you guys apply to those opportunities, and or where did you hear them from?
So for me, I actually took a year off to do a co-op. So that's like a very extended, long and internship. So I found out through my University of Maryland's career office. So they would have basically send out emails, and you can set up alerts, and they had a whole job search, and they'd hold career fairs and things. But basically, I just saw it through an email from the career office, and I went to them. They helped me with my resume, and then I applied. And it was a great experience. So I got to work at a helicopter company called Sikorsky for a year in Connecticut. It was really nice getting that hands-on experience. Through that, I kind of found that I kind of enjoy coding a little bit. I mean, I didn't get too involved, but it was kind of my first exposure to like kind of doing coding for work and like not just like homework assignments. And so that helped me kind of figure out things I liked in my major and things I didn't. Um, so yeah, getting that hands-on experience is huge, and I definitely recommend it because what you're doing in classes, while it prepares you for things, it nowhere near tells you whether you'll enjoy it or not, unless you're doing like a hands-on project or something. Just learning about it from the books or from the teacher doesn't nearly let you know whether you like this or not. You're only going to get that when you start doing stuff, hands-on. So you definitely want to get as much internship experience as possible, and that also helps you a lot with your job search because you always hear that people, those entry level jobs, they're like requiring a certain amount of experience. Like, but this is an entry level job. It's because you need those internships. They help you a lot to get to land those jobs. So when you can show that I've already worked, so definitely make it a priority. Usually it's difficult your first couple of years. Usually they want someone a little more experience, but it doesn't hurt to try. But definitely by like the end of your sophomore year, you want to start looking as an engineer.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I mean, nothing beats experience. No books, no papers, no exams. Nothing beats doing the actual job and seeing what it's all about. I think going off the question of the best avenue to go about finding those internships is we could be like honest, like alhamdulillah, working hard is very important, and that's a standard for everything. It's foundation, but it's those connections. It really is. It's that network. That's all that matters. The first person that I internship with, I met him at Jum'ah, and he had a company, and we got to talking, and I got my first internship like that. It's really who you know at the end of the day, and that can almost apply to most jobs, if not all of them, where if Atif and Shafa are both qualified, but I know Atif on a different level in Safa, I'm just gonna go with Atif just because he has that. I know him from a different level, but if I know Safa more, I'm going to go with Safa because I know her on a different level. So it's really more about that connection and getting that network going. So I think that's the biggest thing. So like this is going to be hard, and I know because maybe it's not hard for some people. I know it was hard for me when I was in high school. Man, don't be shy. Like don't be shy. It's the worst thing that's going to happen is someone says no, and trust me, it's not the end of the world. You're going to get a lot more no's than you're going to get yes, because all you need is one yes. That's all you need. And that one opportunity, alhamdulillah, like it opens up so much more. And you make your istikhara, and inshallah Allah has a plan for everyone, and whatever comes your way, you take it, you make the most out of it, and you go from there. But alhamdulillah, I think the best thing you can do is and like you can go, even just like we have the NUIAA alumni emails where it shows a list of people on the side, who they're hiring, what kind of jobs, like that goes a long way. Alhamdulillah, and that's the biggest thing. Get to know people, go to college, know your professors, have a nice relationship with them where you can email them and they can email you back, things like that, where because you never know who has what connection that can get you somewhere and set up some sort of opportunity in the future. So I think that's the biggest thing. Don't be shy and just keep asking.
Yeah. So in terms of career, I think just like be confident, and also like just because you don't have experience doesn't mean you can't apply somewhere. That's definitely. I remember for getting my first internship, I ended up applying. I think I applied to I don't know, maybe it was like 40 or 50 places. And obviously you get like a million rejections, and you have no experience. You don't know anything. So this was after my sophomore year. So I had taken 1 year basically of like actual course material, like major course material, not just the gen classes. So I knew like I had taken 1 or 2 programming classes, but I was by no means an expert. But I still applied, and I got that one acceptance, and I went for the interview. And they basically will like ask you like, how much do you know or whatever, and just be honest and say that you're willing to learn. Like I think once you show that willingness to learn, they understand that, and no one is expecting you to know everything. And even when you apply for like a real job after college, no one is still expecting you to know everything. You're always going to be learning. So that's really important. Just apply, apply even if you think you're not qualified. There's like always a chance. And yeah, just don't be shy. And that's the advice I have.
Yeah, I guess applying, nothing's gonna hurt. I guess nothing can come from applying than just a yes or no. And alhamdulillah, like you learn a lot more you do on the job, the training, than you do in school. And I think the biggest thing is when you figure out what you want to do, and I guess who you want to do it with, and which company, and kind of what all you need is that first step, and alhamdulillah, it blows out of the proportion, because majority of my interviews, at least, they ask you what you do, what you're comfortable with, what softwares you know. But I'd say at least 60% of any interview I've been to, and I'm sure Atif and stuff can say their experiences, but has always been, are you someone you can get along with, someone you can work with, collaborative? It's really more about the person you are than the kind of background that you have. So if you don't know much, but they realize that, oh, he looks like he's a quick learner, someone he can work with, he can solve, he's quick on his feet, he can work with those who are hard to work with and tough to work with, like very collaborative, that is worth a lot more to some people than just knowing an extra software too. It's just having that kind of quality of being able to work with others and having that camaraderie built up.
Yeah, you guys touched upon really, really great resources. There's like, the world's literally your oyster. There's so much to apply to, and there are so many resources online. Some of which you guys have mentioned, for example, like your College Career Center. That is a huge, huge resource. These are people who are specifically hired to help students find extracurricular careers, or that be like internships, jobs, post-undergrad. Like, this is like basically the bread and butter of their job. So the worst that you can do is not utilize like free resources like that. Obviously, the second of which is with applying to internships and or co-op programs or anything of that sort. Like, it's definitely a process. Like, there's a part of it that, yes, you need to have some, they'll have certain requirements as to what baseline like information you guys need to have learned, or what classes you needed to have taken in some scenarios. But you guys are definitely right. Like, at the end of the day, it comes down to how open are you to learning, and how open are you to experiencing this, this whole job and or like however maybe set up. So really, really great resources. Obviously, LinkedIn. If you're not using LinkedIn, get on it. LinkedIn is #networking, #internships, everything under the sun. So like, get on that. Also, to the college students that are watching, a quick plug into Handshake. Handshake is basically a LinkedIn program specifically for college students. And there are jobs, internships, externships, research opportunities that are all available on that platform. So #use it. And yeah, thank you, Abdurrahman, for plugging into the NUIAA Alumni Association. If you are receiving those emails, every once in a while, we will post some opportunities offered by some of our alumni, whether those be internships or actual jobs. So always be on the lookout for those, because they're definitely gems. And it forces you to scroll down to the bottom of the email. So do that. But yeah, I guess moving on to our next question. This necessarily might not apply to all three of you guys, and feel free to share however much information you'd like. But when it comes to deciding on which jobs to apply to or to pursue, what questions go through your mind in terms of choosing to pursue a graduate or post, undergraduate degree, whether that be a master's program, or a PhD program, or a postbac program, anything of that sort? And when, in some cases, is that not even necessary?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't know how qualified I am, but I mean, so I did go ahead and do a master's degree, and kind of the reason why is it definitely opens up some doors for you if you do pursue a master's, I feel. And then the thing is, it's very crucial to, however, deciding what master's. A lot of people will get a master's in the same degree that like I did, so aerospace engineering, or like, in another engineering degree. In that case, you're kind of going more into your field. And in my case, I actually don't know if that was necessarily the right decision, but it kind of helped me qualify for the job I eventually landed. But at the same time, sometimes you might want to get a master's in like something more like business or management, or you might want to kind of a career pivot. So like you maybe start engineering and then you realize I kind of like comp sci a lot or coding, and then you kind of use a master's to kind of build on that, or switch to kind of a similar but different field. So these degrees can basically have a lot of different functions depending on what you want to do. So it all depends on what you want to do. And if you don't know at the time when you're graduating, it's okay to, take some time to go work. For me, I personally wanted to kind of get the master's done with because I knew once I started working, it'd be unlikely I go back. Um, but you're definitely very qualified just with the undergraduate degree for a lot of jobs, so it's not necessarily a requirement. From what I understand, and I mean, I feel others on the panel can feel free to correct me. PhD in engineering usually means you're going toward research or academia. So it's more of if you're interested in like kind of the theoretical or experiments, writing papers. And so if you're kind of getting in hands-on jobs, PhD usually overqualifies you for that. There are some fields where that's not necessarily the case, but a lot of times it's more of kind of research oriented when you go for PhD.
Yes, I mean, I guess strictly speaking, civil engineering. So as not to conflate any of the other engineering disciplines when it comes to masters. Civil engineering overall is one of the few one of the few engineerings that masters is not really necessary unless, like Atta said, you're going into more specialization, let alone PhD, where it's very research heavy and experimental heavy and theoretical heavy. There's very few people in the actual workforce of engineering that have PhDs. And there are that do. So there's not to discourage anyone that you can do both, but that's not the common track. For masters, overall, I know some people get their masters in structures and transportation, traffic, hydrology, environmental. Those people tend to specialize more, and then when they go into the working fields and apply for jobs, it's very they I guess they hit the ground running per se. It's definitely looked highly upon, but it's not something that really is that companies are expecting when it comes to jobs, internship, jobs in postgraduate level. Coming fresh out of college, you finish your 4 years, you get your civil engineering degree. That's typically what you need. But I think the biggest thing for civil engineers is getting your PE. That's a professional engineering license. That you can say is the master's degree of everyone else. If you get your PE, it's like you have your master's, because that gives you the authorization to sign off of plans, to submit plans to clients, to be able to put your name on it and sign something and send it out. That the PE is worth more than a master's, because without the PE, you're not gonna go far in your career. You're gonna hit a ceiling at 4 or 5 years, and you're not gonna be able to excel past that. So PE is very, very heavily looked upon. So that I would say is prioritizing that over a master's, unless of course, like Atta said, like if you're in school and you already finished 4 years, another 1 or 2 just to get it out is definitely, like, if I were in Atta's shoes, I would have done the same exact thing. Because when you go back, and because when I'm studying for my PE and my other exams that I'm taking, it's very hard to go back from a working life to grinding back to the studying and like going back to the late nights of like writing down notes, listening to lectures, looking at presentations. It's a different feel. So overall, I'd say when it comes to masters, you can get it. It's not something that's absolutely necessary in our field. As a matter of fact, if I were to get a master's in civil engineering, in my career, I would definitely go for an MBA, which is business administration, because the technical side of engineering is there, and once you're going to get to a point of your career where you either want to go technical heavy or management, and most engineers have that, where some just have to go technical and they use that master's in their technical field and specialty to advance your careers. And there's people who go into administration, management, that use that to win work, meet clients, understand the financial aspect of the job and the business aspect of the job. So me personally, I would go to the more management side and try to understand the business more and get into that. But that's very later down in the career. So I'd say anybody coming out of college or looking to go into college is to have that fundamental engineering exam and the professional engineering exam. Those are the two big ticket items when it comes to civil engineering.
So from the electrical engineering perspective, it's actually very similar to what Abdurrahman said. You have to, if you want to specialize in the hardware side and even just electrical engineering side, I think you do have to take an FE exam and then a PE exam later just to get the professional certification. But personally, in my career, I did like a pivot. I didn't stay in the electrical engineering side. I decided to go into software. And for that type of career, you actually don't need a professional like postgraduate degree, because a lot of the times if it's just coding, people learn that even outside of college. So you don't even need, sometimes you don't even need the college degree, but it does help to have that professional training and knowing how to code and all that. So just sometimes you can do well with the undergrad. I'm personally, right now, I am doing my master's. I took a break, so I started working. I did 2 internships at Lockheed, and then I started working full time. And I'm in the rotational program at Lockheed, so you do your master's at the same time. So right now I'm doing working and my master's. So it is very difficult because you're at work and it's like the real world, and then you go home and then it's like, oh, I'm taking notes and I'm in class now. So I mean, it's a little difficult, but I decided to do my master's because I wanted to specialize in AI and machine learning, and I've rotated. I started in regular software, and now I work in like AI. And just I feel like the AI and machine learning field right now is getting saturated as well. Like, as in the jobs are growing, but there's not enough experts. Like, there's not enough people who know like the deep theoretical understanding of what is going on in machine learning. There's a lot of people who want to do it, but not everyone knows what's going on. So I think that having that kind of specialty is valuable, especially nowadays, because like everyone wants to do AI. Like Tesla's doing the self-driving cars. Everyone wants to have a good assistant like Siri or whatever on any of their devices. So all of that stuff is done by machine learning and AI, and it's getting like it's growing. It's like a growing field. So that's why I decided to do my master's, just so I understand the technology.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, engineering in of itself is growing just exponentially, and AI possibly very ominously too. But yeah, there's a lot to discuss in that aspect. But thank you guys so much for sharing your experiences in that aspect. I guess to move on to your current careers, for any students or fellow alums that are interested in getting a sneak peek of what your job's all about, what is the bread and butter of your job? What do you do from the starting hours to the ending hours? And what do you love about it most currently?
So my job, so I work at a satellite operator. It's called SES. So they provide like Wi-Fi and television via satellite to homes, aircraft, cruise ships, things like that. And I specifically work in our aero department, so giving Wi-Fi to aircraft. So the job itself is not actually very engineering heavy. I'm technically in the solutions engineering group, so we support the sales team in looking at our satellite coverages and running analysis on the satellite coverage to the aircraft, kind of looking at the antenna performance on the aircraft. And then I also do a little bit on the product strategy side. So running analysis on projecting where we need new satellites. So we kind of do a bit of data science with all the aircraft flight routes. So analyzing all the flight routes compared to our satellite coverage and figuring out projecting our demands going forward. Then we're also working on kind of making like alliances and groups that are like, evaluating our competition and trying to kind of position ourselves in terms of what we're going to offer our customers, like the airlines and the companies between us and the airlines who provide like kind of in-flight entertainment systems. So there's a lot involved, and I kind of enjoy it because while it's not super engineering heavy, it does draw from engineering a bit. but it gives me a nice variety in terms. Sometimes I'm doing financial projections, which I have no finance background, but like it kind of exposes you to a lot of different things, which is something I enjoy. And that's something great about the engineering degree, is that you're not necessarily boxed into an engineering job specifically. You're qualified because the engineering degree gives you kind of a problem solving background that a lot of companies value even for analysts and other jobs. So that's kind of where I fell in, where I'm not necessarily doing exactly what I did in school with aerospace, aerodynamics and things, but at the same time, my engineering degree opened the door for me to get this kind of analysis job.
So I work at a firm called Kimley Horn. They do ITS work, intelligent transportation systems, and traffic transportation work. They also have site development where we do work for Starbucks, Walmart, Target, all these private companies who I guess hire us to develop their next site. Warehouses for a bunch of different clients for doing different things. Me personally, I work in the transportation department. I do a lot of so the biggest thing with civil engineering right now is that they're making the transition from very old school to calling it smart technology, where instead of having the typical like signs printed on aluminum, it's now going to be smart signs where they can that you see on like major highways and route like Parkway and things like that. Where you see like the letter customizable signs where they have different notifications based off of, like, say, the weather, crash reports, things like that you see when you're driving. A lot of stuff that we do is also setting up the charging stations for Tesla for all these different electric cars and electric vehicles. So those charging stations, there's a high chance that our company worked on that. So right now I'm working on current project I'm working on, for example, is the Newark airport, trying to make that a smart airport in a way that changing the different signs and the layouts, making sure it's a lot more driver friendly. Doing some kind of work that whether it's changing the signs, and it's funny because like we have to never thought in a million years I'd have to do any kind of work that had to do with any kind of like aerospace, but we had to like talk to the airport itself and be like, hey, is this in a no-fly zone? Is this the type of area that we can't build it too high, too low? What's the restrictions here? And whatever the airport says goes, because their limitations is like there's no back and forth about that. But it's kind of work like that I do like that. I also do like signal optimization where we go to different routes around the country, and the county or the state hires us and tells us, this route, let's say Route 1 in NUIAA, which is awful. Back in our day when we went to it, there was only 3 lanes, and it was always backed up at the masjid because everyone would be just constantly going in. What we did was, well, not me, but as engineers in general, that's an example of something we work on, is making the shoulder a new lane now and putting up all those smart signs, giving access to the people and alleviating the traffic, and setting up that kind of structure and system to have it link up with the other signals that are coming up. And it's to me it's very cool because there's a whole science behind it, and it was really very interesting, and it was very math based where you plug in different numbers, to the point of like how you calculate how fast someone would be walking across the street to maximize the amount of time to get a car across, things like that. So that's the kind of work I do, and kind of analysis that I do around the state to in the civil engineering role.
I have like I'm in a rotational program, so I have varied experiences because I've done like 3 different rotations. So my first rotation, I did just C++ software development. I work at Lockheed Martin, so we do aerospace and defense. So I was just developing a simulation that like the Coast Guard would use, to basically control like their ships. So basically, I would just write the code that simulates the actual ship. So that was like my first rotation. My second rotation was applied AI. So that was more like data science and trying to identify different air flight vehicles that are in the sky, like figuring out if it's a drone, or if it's a plane or a ship, or basically just trying to figure out using different sensor data. So that's basically just doing a little data science there. And then my current my third rotation was basically figuring out aircraft routes and trying to predict where they're going. So that was also like machine learning and trying to do different prediction algorithms. There were some algorithms that I had to develop for resource allocation, like for example, like if the Coast Guard wanted to put like a bunch of ships across the coast of the US, like what was the optimal location to protect the border. So that would be like something like that. So those algorithms that, that are very popular in computer science, you basically apply them to real world situations. So that was like my first 3 rotations, and right now I'm in a DevOps role. So I'm basically more like integrating like the machine learning code with like putting it onto the cloud, running machine learning jobs on AWS and different cloud technologies. And I'm still really new to the role, so I can't say much about it, but that's kind of where I am at. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So like day to day, I'm pretty much coding most of the day. I enjoy it, so it's not too bad. But in my last rotation, I had to do some R&D work, so I would have to read like actual computer science papers and try to see like what those algorithms were and if we could actually apply it to the data that we have. So that was kind of interesting because it was like a mix of coding and like research at the same time. So it's pretty interesting if you find the right niche.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for sharing your work experiences. I think it makes everything more fathomable and real when students and or fellow alum are looking forward to similar work opportunities or have passion in similar things. So helps them in narrowing down what specific careers to be looking at, what companies they may possibly be interested in the future. And inshallah, to conclude the night, there's one more question, and that is, what is one piece of advice that you would give an NUIAA high school student today that is interested in engineering?
So I would say the advice I would give mainly is get as much hands-on experience as you can. You want to find out if engineering is really for you. Because again, what you're learning in school and stuff, it definitely points you in the right direction. You definitely need to know or have a passion for math and physics and things, but even with the passion, it's not really going to tell you whether you enjoy it until you like see whether you like enjoy working on projects and things. And the thing is, like you can see from this panel, engineering is very broad. So even if your first initial experience isn't necessarily the most positive, it just might mean you might need to find a different part of engineering that you enjoy more. So I think the main thing is try to explore as much as possible, get as much hands-on experience as you can. Like Abdurrahman mentioned, networking is huge in that respect as well. So you want to kind of find as much way as possible to get a nice work experience, and then really find your passion, find your niche, and then from there you can really go forward. And then specifically for aerospace, I'm just going to add this on because this is something that I kind of, alhamdulillah, I got lucky that it didn't affect me as much as it did, but it's something I think that's to be kept in mind for anyone who's specifically interested in aerospace engineering. I didn't realize how defense heavy it is. It's very much a lot of the jobs when you graduate from aerospace engineering, it's a lot of military jobs and things like that, which, sometimes you might have some moral or like ethical kind of questions. I mean, depending on what you do, you be doing something that might save lives and things, but just kind of know that it might be like when I was doing my aerospace degree, I was like, oh, I'll design aircraft, I'll design planes for Boeing or something. But you'll find a lot of the jobs are military based. There are jobs like mine is a normal private company providing Wi-Fi. So there are jobs like that. Just know that it might be a bit harder to find those jobs. So sometimes maybe even taking a more broader degree like mechanical engineering or something will still qualify you for those aerospace jobs that you like, but leave your options a little more open. So that's something just to keep in mind that specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I know we threw a lot of information at whoever's watching, in high school or college. Alhamdulillah, honestly, I guess best advice like Ataf said is just trying things, trying things. Don't be shy, ask around, and most of all, like keep connection, especially with with your school, especially with your high school. Like, alhamdulillah, like especially like I know ICJ and NUIAA, our community, mashallah, you could find every single kind of degree, every single kind of experience in NUI and in ICJ in that community. Just knowing that people have that background, I'm sure somehow I'm like obviously like civil engineering is very common. I'm sure you'll find that. I'm sure you'll find someone who can code. I'm sure you'll find one person who does some sort of aerospace engineering. Whatever you're interested in, alhamdulillah, like we're blessed to have a community backing and a Muslim backing from where we grow up and where we come from that will help you get to where you want to be and give you information and have to be more than willing to assist you in any way that you can. And alhamdulillah, I think they just work hard and honestly keep Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, and he'll take care of you. Like it's there are times I thought I was failing classes and like I was like on my knees like, oh God, like Allah, this is not happening. But alhamdulillah, like it's like keep Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, and everything else will follow in suit. And alhamdulillah, of course, like work hard, work smart, and use your resources. Use your resources, whether it's a simple question to alumni association, asking your old teachers from my high school, getting to know people in ICJ, NUI, whatever it is. Alhamdulillah, just do what you can. Inshallah, Allah will take care of the rest.
Yeah, that's really great advice, Abdurrahman. Like, honestly, your career isn't everything. You should always keep your family and friends in mind as well. I didn't take a job. Like, for me to find a job, my main priority was somewhere in Jersey because I could, be commute and close to my family. So sometimes your options are more limited that way, but sometimes you just have to prioritize what you prioritize, and Allah will take care of you, inshallah. And so just like general advice, I would say be passionate. So even in high school, like if you find something interesting, like try to learn about it more, get involved, join those science Olympiad clubs, math Olympiad, just be involved and let your interest grow. And then in college, do those internships, because personally, that's kind of where I decided to pivot to computer science, because once I started doing my internship, I realized what I learned in school, I don't know if it's ever going to be applied. So that's why I decided to go into software. So that's basically like where my career journey started. And I see a question from the live stream. Would you say that reinforcement learning is the way to start with AI? I wouldn't say reinforcement learning is the way to start, because that's more reinforcement learning is the way to start, because that's more complicated than basic AI. I would say the way to start is to learn a basic programming language, just so you know how to code first, because a lot of the AI stuff requires you just so you know how to interface with the theory, because a lot of times when you're working, even if you want an AI job, your first step is to code. Like that's the entry point. So if you know a coding language, you're automatically going to become valuable. And I would say if you want to stay on the theoretical side, you necessarily don't need to know coding, but it's a very valuable skill to have. I would say just learn one language and you can always transfer it to any other language. And then to start with AI specifically, you can learn algorithms, and you would have to learn just introduction to AI. So that's basically more algorithms and manipulating data.
Thank you so much for all the wonderful advice. I really hope that the students and other viewers can really take this advice to heart and all the information we talked about tonight. As always, and I cannot reiterate this enough, please use the NUIAA Alumni Association to your advantage. These are individuals that have been in your same shoes a few years prior and are currently pursuing their passions. And what better resource than your very own community? Again, I'd also like to reiterate that the other two previously recorded career panels are available on our YouTube channel, NUIAA Alum. our healthcare panel and our law panel, and inshallah, more panels to come beyond this engineering panel, inshallah. Thank you so much to obviously our 3 wonderful alumni that joined us today, shared all your wonderful insight. Thank you so much, Safa, Abdurrahman, Atif. Your advice and your information and your knowledge will not go unnoticed tonight. And will be obviously posted on our YouTube channel for later viewing. So if you missed it, it is here, it is available, inshallah. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We really, really appreciate it. Please look forward to future NUIAA Alumni Association events and future career panels. As always, do not forget to subscribe and smash that like button. We want to keep our YouTube channel lively. And once again, jazakallah khairan to everybody. And have a good night. Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Take care.